So at the same time of them telling us here in the United States that there's hardly been any inflation at all, because we are currently being warned by the World Trade Organization that food prices are likely to soar higher. So when it comes to prepping, emergency preparedness, some food storage, and how you're gonna plan out your future involving these high food prices, I've got some very important information right here to keep on your guys' radar. If you guys are brand new here, welcome to our awesome community where you can find prepping tips, emergency preparedness how-tos, and more importantly, I'm giving you guys the awareness that you need to know. Important information almost daily. If you find value in that, be sure to hit that notification bell so you guys can stay up to date. Let's jump into this one. So like I said, in a time where we've been told inflation ain't that bad, they tell us what the inflation is on a whole bunch of different things, but the stuff where we're really feeling it, they don't mention that part. And with even more weight, a lot of times it has to do with these food prices. And when they're telling us that we're only paying 10 up to 20% more since last year, we're all seeing higher percentages on some things, aren't we? This article from RT.com was sent to me by a subscriber, and it's a really good article to let us know what's really going on and what to really expect. Titled, Global Food Prices Likely to Soar Higher, says the World Trade Organization. They're saying costs shot up by nearly 20% last year, according to the organization. 20% in 1 year. How is everyone handling that? Is that affecting you? I know most people, this 20% food inflation is affecting us hard. How many of you out there go to the store and once upon a time used to pick up a couple steaks every month or every week? Now you're looking at steak prices and thinking, I don't know if I can afford that steak, since how the steak costs over twice as much as last year. Trust me, you're not the only person in that boat. So many people are feeling the pinch on this food inflation. Food prices surged 18% globally last year, including a 21% rise in the cost of grain. The World Trade Organization estimated in its Global Trade Outlook published on Wednesday. 21% in 1 year, and they're expecting it to get worse? How are we gonna do it? According to the organization, fertilizer prices saw an even larger increase of 63% year on year. 63%. And you're wondering why some of these farmers just can't cut it. The WTO noted that, in theory, higher food costs should encourage more agricultural production, resulting in greater availability and lower prices for food in the future, but warned that more expensive fertilizers could lead to reduced crop yields and ultimately new price spikes. And as much as we don't want to spend more at the grocery store, these farmers, they're not going to make it if they don't jack the prices up. These grocery stores aren't going to make it if they don't jack the prices up. You know where this is all coming from, the upper umbrella. They're forcing these farmers to either sell out to the big conglomerates or China. They're forcing all of these grocery stores to jack up their prices because of supply chain issues and the uncontrollable inflation and hyperinflation of food. The organization also noted that the food prices fluctuated strongly in 2022, first jumping 19% between January and May, following the start of Russia's military operation in Ukraine, and then dropping 15% between May and December. You like that. They always have to emphasize on a downtrend in the graph, but at the end of the year, we're seeing this across the board. Overall, the global food supplies are less precarious than many had feared. In connection with the Ukraine's crisis, they remain a cause for concern, the WTO warned. According to its calculations, the volume of world wheat trade, for instance, fell by roughly 7.5% since 2021, which leaves little margin for error if a major producer suffers a crop failure or climate-related natural disaster. And there's a lot of truth in that statement. Right now, they're cutting it so tight that if we get some adverse weather, which you know who deals with the weather these days, a little bit of adverse weather, a bad storm, it doesn't take much to wipe out crops these days. And unlike back in the day where you could rebound, maybe do a second planting, be able to jump a couple hurdles if they came your way, it's getting too tight that you can't even afford that, let alone new fertilizer prices and everything else that goes into it. The WTO Director General Ngozi on Wednesday called on developed economies to be vigilant to signs of the food crisis triggering hunger in poor nations. Yeah, and there's a good point. Like, our country is seeing a certain amount of struggle when it comes to this food inflation. Imagine a poor country right now. These food sources and export trades, they all come from the same place, and they're not getting any cheaper rate because they're a poorer nation. So we have to be somewhat grateful that we're even getting it. She also reiterated her earlier calls for lifting export restrictions on food and fertilizers, noting that as of April 2023, some 67 countries have such curbs, and that's just it. It's funny that we throw out all of these restrictions out there for the entire world. Makes you wonder why these countries are wanting to kick the United States to the curb, because it seems that they have worked themselves into a position where they control the world. And I don't think everyone wants to play by the same set of rules, especially when you don't believe what's behind the agenda. She also warned that global trade is likely to remain under pressure from external factors in 2023. And that's a big statement coming from the WTO. That is a big warning that you guys need to tighten the pocketbook when it comes to spending and have a good game plan. According to her, these include the crisis in Ukraine and other geopolitical tensions, inflation, and the impact of tightening monetary policy. And back to that, like I said, there's all of these policies that the United States is implying on the rest of the world. And not everybody wants to play by those same set of rules. Whether we're right or wrong, or our leadership is right or wrong, everyone needs to be bracing for some serious change in these coming months. And this food will cost more this year's survey. In quotes, it says, "This makes it even more important for governments to avoid trade fragmentation and refrain from introducing obstacles to trade," in which we've already done at a great extent. Investing in multilateral cooperation on trade would bolster economic growth and people's living standards over the long term, she concluded. There's so much truth to that. And that is what China is doing. China's hopping into this big program, making side deals, slowly kicking or helping kick United States control umbrella to the curb. But you know what? You think China's got good end game agenda? Absolutely not. They're just going to turn into the new monster. Most importantly, you guys got to keep awareness of the writing on the wall. Just like this person said in the comments, how do you feel about 50% inflation on food? This person states that he thinks it's the Zionists and the Rothschilds that are doing this via the sanctions and tariffs on expensive Russia diesel used as jet fuel and transportation fuel to bring the world's produce to markets around the world. Recently, some light shopping by me in a big box store, low cost, good quality grocery outlet filled up approximately a half to 3/4 of a shopping cart and cost nearly $200 in the US. Previously, the same would have filled 2 shopping carts and cost the same thing. This is definitely deliberate by that group to turn up the thumb screws and force Western citizens into believing in the next world war. To also make Western citizens believe that a world war would be better for them and their families than bankruptcy and starvation. Now I have to say, that's a pretty good point or perspective from a viewer. And I say that about a lot of comments. There's so many people that write in with different angles of perception, and so many make sense. Which ones are accurate? Very hard to know the truth these days. What we do know is the pain that we've been feeling with inflation, hyperinflation, and food inflation. Because what we know for sure is what we've had to deal with in real life. Grocery inflation. So much inflation in 2023, that is one thing that we know is happening. Definitely a lot going on. Let me know down in the comments below what your guys' theory is, what you guys think is happening and what's going to happen. What do I think? I think inflation is much higher than they've told us it is. I think a lot of people are struggling out there. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of you guys out there are struggling on writing that check, sliding that card. When you see that huge grocery bill and your cart is only half full, like, trust me, I remember back in the day when we would fill up a cart and we'd be like, whoa, that's $200. Do you agree with me? $200? You're not filling that cart these days. And the point that this article is driving home to me, and I want to drive to you, is that they're expecting it to get worse. They're expecting grocery prices to soar even higher. So that's the awareness I want to bring to you. You guys adjust accordingly. Make sure that you're ready and not caught with your pants down, because that's what we're all about right here, is taking care of each other, making sure everyone is aware of what's really going on, and having a mind of emergency preparedness. Keep prepping, keep learning, keep doing, guys. We'll see you on the next one.